Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah, Warner Brothers. Yeah.
I knew it would come to me.
You see the police.
Warner Brother. I was just about to say that. The police come around. Warner Brother.
But they were saying, they were like, we don't know if we're gonna do any more Dune. I'm like,
wasn't the show coming too? They were gonna do a show.
That would be awesome. Yeah, about the Bene Gesserits, but that apparently has had a lot of, even before all the strikes and everything, that had a lot of, what do they call that? Production
setbacks.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Yeah. Which sucks, but yeah, I don't know. So, but then this was before we even knew that the first Doom was just said part 1. Because this is before the movie came out. You didn't know until you see the opening and it says part 1.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought this was the whole movie, and then they were saying, well, we don't know if we'll do the next one. But even that first one, even though it was right on HBO, still did very well. Yeah. So they'd be dumb to not keep it going. So I hope they do. For sure.
Well, speaking of Denis Villeneuve.
So I looked up his name so we could pronounce it properly.
Okay, so how is it?
So we haven't been, is what you're saying?
We were kind of close. So it's Denis Villeneuve. So just
Villeneuve.
Villeneuve?
Yep, just like
so
I wrote right because I was saying I knew it was Denny because it's French.
So it's not Dennis.
Yeah, not
Why do you
Dennis.
spell it?
It's right here.
So then I spelled it out like it's like how it sounds, and it's not as many. It's not as long. His last name is
Denny.
not. It's more
Villeneuve.
just yeah.
Denis
Because I wrote it out as Villeneuve.
People definitely say Villeneuve though.
Really?
Like
okay.
I've seen like that even in the anyway the extra stuff. But yeah, speaking of that, we it's welcome to Scream Time.
Mm-hmm.
Scream time.
Screen time. Sorry,
we're gonna do a horror podcast. Scream time.
Oh my gosh, this is such a good idea.
We got enough already. We don't need to
well, I was wondering actually for the TV stuff. I was like, what are we gonna cover next? And it's kind of that time of year. Should we switch to some after the Star Wars stuff? Like,
yeah. When is the last week of that?
The week we're on vacation. It's the end of September.
Oh, wow, okay.
So then right after that, or we could have a little crossover. We had to, but I don't know. Just an idea.
Okay, sweet.
But
I know Claudia
I'm always
will,
down.
Yeah, she will.
Well, there's that new Apple TV one that looks a little creepy. That's starting at some point soon.
The Changeling.
Yes, that one. But we're here to talk about a movie. We're not here to talk about TV on this podcast.
That's not what this one's about.
This
is about cinema. Film.
The silver screen.
Film.
Yeah, so
we're going through all of his movies now, right?
So this is the start of there was 2 movies released in the same year, right?
Yeah.
It was Enemy and
Prisoners.
Mm-hmm. So we decided to cover Enemy first.
Although Prisoners did come out technically first.
Technically?
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked this up.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, and I think it did come out. It could have been, I don't know when they were both filmed, but yeah, they...
Right, film order could have been different, but yeah.
Right,
he had Jake Gyllenhaal busy that year.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So we're going to work through a few of his, or all of his English-speaking movies.
Yeah, this was his first.
Mm-hmm.
That was not... Yeah, I was looking through his other ones. I think everything before this was pretty much French films. Yeah.
So, but I'm here with Jared and Claudia.
Hello.
Hello.
And my name is Josh, for those of you that don't know.
Hi, I'm Josh.
And we're going to cover the movie Enemy.
Yes.
So before we get into specifics and spoilers, just overall thoughts of the movie. What'd you think?
So when the movie was over, Jared, we were kind of like, wow,
Yep.
It's definitely one of those movies that is open to interpretation.
For sure.
And when you're done watching it, you kind of are backtracking and replaying some of the events that you saw. And you're like, what does this mean?
Definitely.
And I personally like, because this definitely has one of those like indie film vibes to it.
For sure, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love a good indie film that is open to interpretation, like those types of movies that could go either way. And a movie that makes me immediately want to look up fan theories on it is something that I really like.
Yeah.
So I enjoy this movie a lot, actually. I really, really liked this movie. And just kind of the parallel between these two men and their lives. There's obviously some things that you're like, what's that about? And which we can get into like later.
Yeah.
But yeah, very impressed by this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Jake Gyllenhaal killed it, I think.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really liked it too. And I was actually surprised that you liked it that much because I wasn't sure. You know, when this ended, I was thinking, I'm like, I don't know how Claudia's going to feel about this, but I didn't know you really were into these kind of films specifically. So this is like, from what you just described, this is like the perfect movie for you.
Yeah, it's really cool. I had this phase like in high school where I watched a lot of indie films that have similar vibes like this one. And I mean, I watched them like all the time. I would just go through and be like, this looks like it might have something. And I don't know if it's the tone of these types of movies, the feel, the emotion sort of thing that really draws me to these types of movies that I really like. I think might be just how they make me feel when I'm watching them that is attractive to me with these types of films. I think that's probably why, because I haven't seen really an indie type film like this in a while. And it really kind of brought me back to that, you know, that time in my life where I just watched these like crazy and tried to dissect them.
Yeah, it was really good though, because this is the only one. Yeah, I think it's the only one, obviously not counting all of his French movies. This is the only one I haven't seen of his. And going into it, I'm like, man, I don't know with this one how it is, but it's like, has this director ever missed? And then after finish this movie, I'm like, no, I guess he hasn't, because it was still very good. And that's crazy. Also, this and Prisoners in the same year is
It's released in the same year.
right. Well, I mean, yeah, but still, like that's crazy.
I mean, sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah,
I feel like this was probably before it as far as production wise. Just I don't know, did you watch any of the extra stuff? That was
no, I didn't.
So I was watching that, and it seemed very, as you speak, indie, like even on the set and like what they were doing. And he was talking like someone that didn't have a lot of experience. Like when you're talking as a director, he was kind of like, yeah, I mean, you could tell, like, not that he hadn't done any movies before, but like it was, you could see he was feeling like it was still fresh and like he was talking about how even on this one, it was the first time he felt like he was a little more collaborative, and you know, he felt like he had to be a dictator kind of thing on set. And he's like, and I've learned it's better if I don't, you know, I just like everyone. And Jake, he kind of kept mentioning Jake Gyllenhaal being, you know, like weighing in and them like more of a collaboration, which I relate to, because that's how I approach things when I direct stuff. It's not me dictating. It's much more of a collaboration with the rest of the creative team on set, right? But just the vibe of it, like it felt very indie. And I imagine, and I haven't seen Prisoners, but I imagine if that one's a little bit more if it has a little more higher budget look, it definitely probably was after this one.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah. Well, and just maybe you haven't seen all the cast in that, but like he got a lot of other big
where this is
actors
just
it's really just him. Yeah. So that's why I figured this one was first, but yeah, not sure, but yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, with this, but it definitely has that indie vibe. But at the same time, though, watching it, the way it looks in the cinematography, that does not feel indie at all. Like there was shot, and I don't know, maybe you think differently, but there were shots, especially some of the. I think I'd point out to Claudia specifically. I was saying when there's shots of the city, I was like, well, if you put a bunch of neon lights in this is Blade Runner. You know what I mean? Like the way he shoots those shots, I was like, you could tell this was him.
The buildings and like the overhead kind of shots.
And kind of the way he's panning. And I don't know who We always talk about the DP.
The DP was Nicholas Baldock.
Okay.
Which he
did he work with him in any other ones?
And he
oh wow, okay.
And he actually hasn't done like a lot of big movies, so like he didn't work with him after this. So.
Oh, okay. Well, it still was. Was.
Well, I mean, again, we might have talked about this a little bit last time, but directors. There's different types of directors. There's directors that are very hands-on with the way the camera is going to frame things in the way, and then there's other directors that are a little bit more hands off with that stuff and let the DP do a lot of that, of the heavy lifting of that. And of course, there's ones that probably it's a little bit of both. Because I mean, I imagine if he moved on to work with Roger Deakins.
Yeah, and literally the best. I'm
sure Roger Deakins is giving a lot of input on how this things are visually going to look. But yeah, I mean, I think it definitely had a cool look, and there were some interesting shots, and of course it had like that overall orangish tone to the whole thing, but the yellowish to everything looked yellow. But
yellow definitely,
jaundiced.
Yeah,
yeah.
I in general I liked it. You know, I would say for the first 30 minutes, I was like, like that first act, and I was kind of like, this is okay. And I mean, I was enjoying it from like some things like visually and stuff, but just like the general story that so far, like I was like, it was slow.
Oh yeah.
And that's fair.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't want to get too much. There's other stuff you can talk about, but
so you liked it more as it went then?
Yes. By the end, I liked it. I wouldn't say I loved it.
Okay.
Yeah. But I liked it.
Yeah, it probably is still his weakest movie of all of them. Yeah, I would still
certainly.
say. Yeah, but that's what's crazy is that's just how good all of his other movies are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, move into spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
We'll move past the intro. So here's before we do that, the IMDb synopsis.
Yeah.
A man seeks out his exact look-alike after spotting him in a movie.
It's crazy. That's the only description of the movie.
It's one line. When we pulled up the movie, it's just one sentence, just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Which, I mean, that's really all you need. I mean, that's pretty intriguing in itself.
It is. It is intriguing.
Yeah.
Enough that you're like, yeah, I'll watch this.
Yeah. So, but that, I mean, it takes a little bit to get to that point,
right?
It
does. It does.
And you're kind of like, what is happening?
Where is this going?
This dude that seems just like sad professor.
Well, and it is slow. I definitely agree with you, but what that beginning is doing is, it's showing the cycle and monotony of his life. Like they're going through it several times, so you can see how the same every day is for him. Yeah.
The other thing that was also because in that first act, other than there's those couple opening scenes that you're kind of like, what is happening?
Oh boy.
Yeah, we'll talk about the very opening.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But other than that, for that long first act, so to speak, that there wasn't anything that was really weird, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But yet the music kept implying you're watching something that should be, right? Mm-hmm. And so that kind of also rubbed me a little the wrong way, because I was like, this is kind of dragging out. There's not really anything happening, and yet the tension in the music's telling me that I'm supposed to think something's happening, but nothing was happening.
It's like a lot of clarinet. Is it a clarinet? Like,
it
sounds like a clarinet.
It sounded like clarinet or oboe, maybe.
Yeah.
It was cool. That was it. I thought about that a lot, because that's like kind of the main instrument he picked for this. And
it's pretty prominent too.
It is,
the music is throughout the like more like a thriller would be, like where it's like in there, right?
So it's actually, to speak on the music a little bit, so it's actually two composers. Oh. So when this happens in movies, I'm always wondering, did they just collaborate over the whole thing, or did one do? Yeah, I don't know, because this came up a couple of times in some of the movies we did on Film Banter, where it was two different composers, and I'm not sure who does what, but so it's Daniel Bensi and Sonder Jurians. So the three things I looked at, I recognized that they did. All TV though, not any other movies I recognized. But Tokyo Vice, The OA, and The Outsider, which are all three very good shows if you've seen any of them.
Wow, yeah.
Now, of those three, I would say The Outsider. Very similar music.
I was gonna say
very similar.
That makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I liked it. And I always like when scores have a specific instrument they use and bring it to the forefront and use it in a very specific way throughout the whole movie.
You don't hear a lot of clarinet either. Like, I feel like in movies as like the main instrument.
I couldn't tell exactly. So clarinet, oboe, or bassoon. And they're all three of those. It could kind of be. I wasn't sure, but yeah, and kind of in that range. But yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's not. Certain instruments actually are the best of portraying a specific feel. So a lot of times they will pick specific instruments to portray a certain thing. So actually, those in particular, it does work for the movie because those usually are used for more of a, I don't know what the right word would be, mysterious type of feel, I guess would be the word.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like unsettling, but more
it's a little eerie.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, but yeah, I thought it was really great.
Yeah. All right. So overall, just talking through the rest of the plot and stuff. Like, what do we story wise? Like, now we can go into spoilers.
So
yeah,
when it opens up, let's just get this out of the way.
Yes.
The opening scene.
Yeah, what a way to open the movie.
Yeah, the opening scene, you see Jake Gyllenhaal walking into a room with a lot of men, and they're all looking at something. Really, you're focused on their faces, but the camera is still passing things that are very blurry, and you're like, they kind of look like women, the outside, the shape of women. And then you hear, what's going on kind of in the background, some moaning coming from female voices. And you're like, okay, this is like, it seemed too weird to be a strip club. You're like, this doesn't feel like a strip club type scene. Because they're just, all the men are just like, stone, statue still staring at these women, whatever they're doing. And Jake Gyllenhaal eventually like takes his seat and he sits down, and there's just naked women on stage doing things to themselves, and the men are watching, and you're like, this is like a rich man's kink dungeon type thing.
He's also wearing the wedding ring, right?
And yeah, so I was gonna get to that. Okay. So it closes up on zooms in on Jake Gyllenhaal's face, and his hands come up to his face, and he's sitting there, and he's got his hands like this, and you notice he has a wedding ring on. And then it goes to a scene where a lady has like a dish with a thing on top, and she pulls it off and a tarantula pops out, and she goes with her high heel. It looks like she's about to step on it, but you don't see it get stepped on, right? Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to Adam being a professor, and you realize he doesn't have a wedding ring on. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this must be from the summary of the movie. You're like, oh, this must be maybe the actor,
the
other person. And I caught that right away, and Jared's like, oh, you're right, because I don't think you no, I didn't. You didn't catch the wedding ring thing. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I didn't catch it either. I'm just real because I didn't go back and rewatch it.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't catch it so you saying that, I was like, oh, okay, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, he is wearing the wedding ring.
You assume from later with the mention of the key, the
right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
When you make the connection later.
It was that guy that was going.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Or was it?
Exactly. Or was it?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Also, that opening scene, the other part, I wrote down about that. Well, I just put like, what a way to open a movie. It's just it's crazy. But it was also very reminiscent of Requiem for a Dream ending.
Mm.
Very memorable ending. I'm not going to explain what happens, but
I jumped so hard at the ending.
No. The beginning scene of this is just like the ending of Requiem for a Dream.
You're saying the beginning. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
When also there was a random flash of the pregnant woman in there,
naked on the bed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's
I
right.
have a note about that.
Which is like
you're like immediately like, what the heck is this movie about?
Yeah. That was like an odd, and those were like having even that intro a little bit, and it's like, and this maybe just my own bias or whatever, but then it going to what it was doing after, and it just, if for that first act, like I was saying, like I just sit there. I was watching. I'm like, it feels like it's trying to be weird, just to be weird.
Yeah.
Like that opening was just so random, and then the rest of the time was like not much happens. Yet the music is intense, and I'm like, and I just kept feeling like this is just trying too hard to be weird or whatever, right? But again, that shifts, and then you're like, there's actually something here, and there, anyway, there's,
like it's trying to be like artsy.
yeah, it's like trying too hard a little bit, yeah, and yeah, I mean, I don't know, so it's based on a book. This movie,
I know, and I saw that.
It's called
and
The
I was
Double.
Oh,
Yeah.
I want to read it now.
It's it's in Portuguese. It's a Portuguese author.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my gosh,
I didn't know that.
I had no idea.
I learned this watching the extras. So,
nice. All right.
So
very cool.
But this was the second book of this guy's. The Portuguese, he's won a Nobel Prize for something he wrote, and they adapted one of his other books to a movie. And by the time they screened it, it was the only one he released to like the rights to. And then they were able to screen it for him. Right, I mean, he was like sick. They had to do a special screening so this guy could in Lisbon so he could watch it. And then, but then he liked it. So then they gave him the rights to do some other books, and this was one of, and so the producer of this movie produced the other movie as well. That was based on this guy's book, and his name, I have his name wrote down.
Nice.
Jose Saramago.
Do we know what the other movie was?
No, I didn't write it down, but yeah.
I wonder how much of it.
I don't know if they translate it to English or not, but
I wonder how different it is
it.
than the movie.
From the movie,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Disclaimer: if you're an arachnophobe, don't watch this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Really don't. I mean, heed my warning. Do not watch this movie.
There were some scenes I did not like for that reason.
Jared was like, no.
Yeah.
Also, well, obviously not later, but at the beginning. Oh, is that good?
Yeah, that's dying, which that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. At the beginning, especially, like, that's for sure a real tarantula. Now, obviously, the end.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's
Different, but I was
might
like,
be a real one. They just like composite it larger.
oh, you think so?
Yeah, you can do that.
Wow.
That would that'd be crazy if that was true.
It looks very real.
I mean, that's the easy way to do it. I would say that's the cheaper way to do it.
Yeah.
If you're doing a lower budget indie movie,
That's true. Yeah.
the easiest thing to do is film a real one, or even get a stock of a real one that's already masked out, so you have an alpha, what they call alpha channel, so you can pull, so it's transparent around it, and then you composite into the actual shot, blow it up to whatever size you want it to be.
Well, that's not
All right.
That's not my favorite shot of the movie, but one of the other favorite shots, one of the other shots of the movie that I really liked was the city shot with just the huge spider kind of walking like that. I thought that was really cool, though.
It reminded me of that. I should have looked this up before, but it just came to me. There's a painting of an elephant with very long legs that look lanky and kind of that look just like that spider. Now I gotta find it.
It reminded me of this in the Stranger Things where they have like the was that season 2?
Oh yeah.
And it kept like looming over it has all these like kind of, I mean, they were like almost ghostly arms, right? But they still had that feel.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's a Salvador Dali painting.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. That's
where the
very
elephants
similar.
have like, they're kind of like on stilts is what it looks like. And it reminded me of, me of the shot of the spider that's got the long. Ugh. Can you imagine seeing something like that? That's horrible.
No.
That sounds horrible.
If I saw that hovering above the city, I would simply pass away. Dude, no thanks.
Oh.
So we introduced to Andy, right? Andy's the teacher.
Yeah.
Is it Adam?
Or Adam. I have notes.
Yeah, the actor is
Adam
named.
and Anthony.
Adam and Anthony, yes. Adam is the professor.
Yep.
The history professor.
Yep. And so we get to know him and his mundane life. He and his girlfriend don't really get along, right?
He wakes up, he goes to work, he comes home, they have dinner, they have sex, she leaves. She doesn't even spend the night.
Yeah, and then
if they even finish having sex,
yeah,
I feel like it's
yeah.
like they start fooling around, then she's like, "I'm out of here."
She's like, "Stop!" And then she gets up and she gets dressed and she marches out. Like, and you're like, "What just happened?" And that's literally his life every day.
Oh, we hear a call. There's a voicemail message from his mother in the opening scene over the city.
That's right.
That was interesting. Yeah, and she's just like, I don't know how you live in that apartment, blah blah blah, because he has, I guess, no furniture. Because he has like no furniture.
Yeah,
it's just a bed.
Boy apartment is what I said.
Claudia said this is a very dude apartment.
This is a boy apartment. There's a chair. There's some dishes. Nothing on the walls.
Mattress on the floor, and then
no TV or anything. Yeah, it was very sad. It's a sad life. You can tell. I mean, you're like, you feel bad for this guy and that this is his life. And
all the stuff he was saying in the classroom, I thought was really interesting, though. Well, and then he even was talking about like cycles and patterns, right? Mm-hmm. But the one quote I wrote down that I thought was interesting that I think because they did it a couple times, right? Because they kept showing his daily cycle of like everything he does. What do you say? All the greatest world events happen twice, and then Karl Marx added, the first time it's a tragedy, the second time it's a farce.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think about in real life. I was thinking about
think of all the events that have happened twice.
But then I was trying to think I was thinking about in the context of the movie how that is. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it has something to do with the movie as well, but
I definitely think it was intentional.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because of the double, life.
Yeah, the extra, the two looking same people.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, so then eventually coworker.
That conversation was painful.
It's so awkward.
Painful conversation.
It's like, you watch movies?
I like how
I don't really like movies, he says.
I like how at one point Jake Gyllenhaal eventually like he starts looking at him like, oh, I guess we're doing this conversation now. Like his reaction was perfect in that. He's just like, all right, we're doing this, I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't really want to talk, but here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because like it's not like the guy like we don't really know if you watch the movie the guy recommended because you don't see what he actually picks up. He
it
was it?
You could read it on the side.
Did you see it? Okay, yeah. I felt like I was watching. Life is what you make it. Okay,
that's
and
right.
He says, "Life is what you make it." He's like, it's true. It's very true. Yeah. He's like, no, that's the movie. Like he wants this conversation to end. Like he's so over it. No, but I'm pretty sure you could see it when he goes to rent it.
Okay, I thought I was looking for it, and the way they filmed most of it, you couldn't see what he was looking at. So then, but maybe I missed a little spot. But either way, like it's irrelevant because whatever he ended up picking up is he watches and he sees some. Well, he doesn't see him.
Yeah,
he doesn't notice him at first, right? Like he goes to sleep, and then in his dream, he's like, or nightmare, he's like, wait, and he has to go back and pause it to try to find, and he's like, that looks like me.
Yeah, and what's crazy is because they show that scene of him watching it a few times, and you do see the bellboy, and so I'm assuming they showed him before that, but I had no idea it was him until he actually, paused it, and you see it. So I'm assuming if we went back and watched this again, I'm sure you would notice that it's him before that. Yeah. Even just watching the scene for the first time.
Yeah, it was there in front of you. You just didn't notice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so then he goes looking for this guy, and of course, down
this rabbit hole. I mean, like in a crazy episode of.
Yeah.
I have to find this guy.
You know what? Actually, now that you just said episode, this is like a very Black Mirror.
It is a very Black Mirror.
Like I could see them doing something like that. Yeah, this is something they would do. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Has that vibe of a Black Mirror episode.
Because obviously two identical human beings
they might have even did an episode where there was like a doppelganger. I think they might have done something like that. It's been a while since I've seen all of them, like all the older ones.
I can't remember. Nothing comes to mind.
Yeah, so he finds him, right?
Yeah.
But then he calls and talks to the wife first.
Yeah, the wife picks up.
And she just assumes it's her husband because they sound the same.
Same voice, yeah.
She's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like it's a joke.
Yeah. And then he calls back again and then talks to the... So then it shifts a little bit and starts giving you that perspective of the actor, Anthony.
Who's living essentially the better life of the better life of the mundane professor version of himself.
Yeah.
Anthony's got the nicer apartment.
Right.
Their girls are very similar looking.
Yes, very similar.
And then what was it that you kept saying about both of them, like both of their relationships?
Well, Adam has a sad kind of friend with benefits, and Anthony has a wife who's about to have his child, more serious, It's like Adam craves the life Anthony has, and Anthony craves the life Adam has.
Yep.
Maybe not the boring job part, but the casual sex, do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Aspect
Less
of
responsibility.
It. Right. The more reckless kind of.
Well, and they were also pretty direct when he was Anthony, right? Is the actor?
Yeah.
Okay. When he was arguing with his wife. And she's like, "Oh, you seen that girl again?"
Yeah.
And he's like,
We
so
know he has a history of infidelity.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then he gets obsessed with trying to meet him, and then he kind of gives up, so to speak. Like he's like done with it after they meet, right? But then Anthony gets the bright idea that he wants to switch places, so to speak.
I know. I was like, you don't have to come to this man's house and threaten him to sleep with this woman. She probably would anyway. She seems like the type,
She's a little unhinged.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So then they, but he's basically they're not really switching places. He just wants to switch place with him.
Right.
But then Adam decides to go see the wife, the pregnant wife.
You're like, well, if he's living my life, I'm going to go live his life.
So then Anthony and the girlfriend go away for the weekend, but then she realizes it's not the same person, and then she freaks out. And then I think I don't know about you guys, but I think the pregnant wife, like she knew it was not the same.
She did.
Because she was like, how was school today?
Yes.
Right? But like you could tell even before then, like
she was like okay with it because she was like, because he's because he's like more chill and like seems like
more respectful.
And wants something like that, whereas the other guy didn't want something like that. So she's kind of like, I'm okay with this. You know?
It's like the scene when she goes to the college to find him to see if this is actually real, and she's sitting there and she looks like she's on the verge of tears. I had a note saying that feeling when you realize you married the wrong Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
It's like she was coming to that like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Well, she probably, I mean, she would know. She knew even then at that point when they have the conversation there, and he's just really, he's nice and respectful towards her.
I know the guy was like, "Do you need anything? I mean, you're pregnant. Do you want me to get you something?" Does her husband not do that for her? What a piece of crap, dude!
Yeah, he just talks down there the whole time.
Yeah.
And
where are my blueberries at? I can only have organic blueberries. I'm like, dude.
Well, and then Adam doesn't even like blueberries, right? And then there's like mom when he goes over to his mom's. And like she tries to, he's like, you don't like blueberries or something.
Oh yeah, I didn't even catch that.
It's like subtle things. But yeah, so then the ending. So,
dude,
the actor Anthony and the girlfriend end up wrecking and dying, right?
I was like, that takes care of that problem, doesn't it?
But then it's like he's just falling right into this new life of like the domesticated life of being married to and having a child on the way, and he's quitting on the suits and everything. And then they're talking, and then she walks in the other room and he says something to her and she doesn't respond.
Dude, this is...
He's like, do we have any plans tonight? Because he finds the key to the whatever this sex dungeon thing is. Do we have any plans tonight? I'm thinking about going out. I think I have something to do.
Well, and to back up a little bit, when he goes in...
the neighbor,
right?
Yeah,
and the security guy.
Like the security guy.
He's like
the front desk guy.
He's like this. He's like, I need to go back.
I know.
Like he's like, hey,
I heard they sent out new keys, but I don't think I got invited this time.
Immediately what I thought was like, is this like an Eyes Wide Shut thing? Like that's basically what it is. Like something like that where, like the highest of the highest society, like and you need, and you're only invited,
So he has the key, which then. So then he's hinting at like, is he going to go down that path
He's gonna
now?
go, right. Yeah, he's gonna go check it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when she doesn't respond and he goes back into the room, she's just this massive spider in the room and looks like it's scared of him, sort of thing. Oh, I jumped so, because even they made like the spider squeal sound and.
It's like it's like the most random and unpredictable ending. Like even just the scene, but then that's where it ends too. It's just you see his face, the reaction, and then that's it.
Yeah. And there's a couple other times. Like remember there was a point where it was Adam, right, walking down the hall, and that woman walks
with the spider head,
which is she's normal looking other than her face is spider, and you're like, what? So like there's this
I have a note about that too.
Well, it's just like this extra non-traditional, so extra, what's the word I want, like not spiritual realm, but like extra, like
it's like a dreamscape.
He's
like in a dreamscape
that's
throughout
happening
this movie.
That scene is actually what I put as the best shot, because it's like an upside down. That was probably like the coolest as far as cinematography, I thought. The way they did that one, because then it also and it's like reflected too, right? Because isn't he showing it as like kind of more like a mirror first, but it's also upside down. I don't know.
Cool. Well, there's a lot of reflections.
Oh, he did that too. Yeah,
there's a lot of
where you think it's in the room, but it's actually the mirror. Yeah.
She's like walking down. It's like blurry, and then she comes into focus, and you realize she's got that spider head, and I'm like, oh, that was a spider head that she had on her body, and Jared goes. Was that what it was? I was like, what spider head? She had a head?
Wait, she had a head? I know, Claudia was like, wow, that was the most guy response ever.
I was like, what? I'm sorry.
I was looking at the camera angle.
Yeah. I was so enthralled by the angle and the... Whatever.
To be clear though, on my end, that was my favorite shot, not for that reason. It actually was the cinematography.
Yeah, sure.
We all have our stories.
Yeah, we all have stories. Do you have I'm always interested in this now that we're doing the pod with you, is what's your favorite shot of this? Because there's going to be, especially going forward with these movies, there's going to be a lot of really...
In this movie?
Good shots in movies.
Well, there was a couple times where, so there's different things that catches my attention, and so sometimes something like that where you're like, okay, that was creative. Even some of the other stuff, some of the reflections, even those opening shots where they were in that weird, whatever it was, there was some really cool like reflection stuff that they were doing in there. But then there's the stuff where just knowing technically how do you achieve this. Because Jake Gyllenhaal has to act both sides of it,
right?
And there's like times where like the camera's moving, and so it's one thing,
both of them,
and they cross paths with each other.
That's crazy.
And I'm like, to pull that off from a technical standpoint and make it look seamless, those are things that stand out too. Like the one time when he comes into the apartment ready to like, basically yell at him and tell him and threaten him and say we're switching places, like, and he like barges in and they like walk like past each other, and I'm like, how do you do that? I mean, obviously you need some special effects to cut
it has to be, right? Do they normally just get someone that looks like him for the body double and then put his face on it? Is that what they do?
No, so again watching those little extras,
they show it. Okay, cool.
The guy had just a tennis ball on the end of a C-stand and
it'd be so hard to act against.
And that way he would keep his eye line in the right spot.
Right, okay.
And so, because that's the part of it, is you need to know where you're looking, where the other person's going to be. And so he would use that just to know, so we know where the eye line. And then they remove it because I mean, the easy thing to do is like, if you're filming two things and they don't cross paths, you can just cut, splice, and use this half as one scene, this half, and especially the camera doesn't move. It's really easy.
And he just does the performance twice.
Yeah. And that's what they did basically, but just a more complex version of that. And so they used, because the camera's moving and bodies are moving in the scenes a lot more, they used the tennis ball so he would know where he should be looking as they were moving throughout the scene.
Nice.
But again, still, how do you cut and splice that and do the effects to make it seamless?
And also, so this is 2013. This is now already a 10-year-old movie. So I mean, how far all this technology has come even in 10 years. Like, I wonder how they did it even in 2013.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends.
Or
like,
maybe
again,
2012. You don't know when it was filmed. You know?
And it depends a little bit of, some of those techniques, like, the split thing, like they've been doing that since when they were still filming everything on film.
Right. Yeah.
So like some techniques are just, it's just being clever with the camera and things.
Camera tricks. Yeah.
So that stuff doesn't change regardless of the technology. But yeah, I'm not sure what they did on this, but some of those stood out to me as just interesting because of the technical achievement of doing that, especially on like what kind of seemed like an NG budget, right? Like it's not like the Marvel stuff when they do things like that and everything's shot on green screen and people could be each shot individually and then spliced in together. It's like that's a whole different world.
Yeah, and probably even because still at this point, I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal is a big star, so I imagine he probably didn't even get paid that much for this, and he's doing two, or unless a lot of the budget just went to him. You know what I mean? Because he said it's a relatively small budget anyway.
Well, I believe he wanted to do this movie. Like I think, sometimes once
he likes doing weird movies.
Like I think
he
read the book or I can't remember now. There was it was a little hinted at, and there's like a couple extra things I watched. But it seemed like he was aware of the source material and was interested in doing the movie and interested in doing something where he had to play the two sides of something.
I noticed really good actors. That's something they always want to do at some point is do something like that, like a dual role.
It was phenomenal acting on his part to make two very convincing characters that looked identical but yet had very unique personalities.
They're so different internally.
Yeah, and you felt like different people.
Mm-hmm. I noticed even the teacher, the way he walked, even he walked his classroom very different than the way the other guy walked. Yeah,
you'd feel safe with Adam and not with Anthony.
Yeah, when we were watching this movie, I'm like, well, there's really going to be no argument for like who was the best performance in this movie. Yeah. It's like, dude, there's no question.
Yeah. The spider.
The spider, yeah. Good acting, good spider acting.
I do I think the pregnant wife, she did a good job too. Like really the subtle, there's a lot of subtle stuff, but there was a lot of subtle emotion and understanding and stuff that she was doing in those, that like we were talking about where you're like, there, that line of like keeping it. Does she know? Does she not know? Mm-hmm. I think she knows. That it was not the same guy. Mm-hmm. And then eventually, like, oh, she knows.
She's the other one, the only other person in this that I recognize because I've seen her. She was in. I was trying to think about when we were watching it. She was in that Stephen King miniseries. The JFK one. What is that one called?
Sarah Godin.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about, though, right, Claudia?
Mm-hmm.
It's like 11/23/6. Yeah, it's the date of JFK.
I just can't remember the date. Yeah,
it's 11/23/63, I think, or something
like that.
I don't know, but yeah. So she was in that. I remember seeing her in that, and I don't know if I saw her in anything else, but that was a really good miniseries. But I thought
the other girl looked familiar to me.
Really, I didn't recognize her.
She's a European actress. I wrote her name down. Melanie Larnett. I think she's French.
Oh, okay.
Larnett. Okay.
Yeah. So the real question is, were they two separate people?
No.
Okay.
No, they Denis Villeneuve confirmed that.
Okay.
Yeah. I have something for that actually.
I didn't think so either. I think it's the same guy, just
his two different. It's the choice you make as a man, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's essentially what it is. Do you choose to be juvenile and give in to your desires, or do you, become a man, settle down, be faithful to your wife, and have that? Because you can't have both of those lives.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's the same person, are we seeing like? And this is, or at least, okay, I think the way it was perceived or being shown was, we're seeing him both happen, like, and which is, and I didn't go back and watch, but I imagine like that first time the professor Adam calls and hears and talks to the wife, like she's kind of like, again, like you're like, oh, she recognizes him because they sound the same, but or is it that he's been with the mistress and then like,
right,
and then she's just like, hey, where you been, like kind of like, or you know, what are you doing?
Sure.
And so like you can see those the double meanings behind it when you reflect on the whole thing as like, oh, they were the same person all along, and then of course with the comment at the end, oh, I'm going out, are we doing anything, I'm going out tonight, is like, oh, so all along you were the same, because you're the same person, you were doing this and that, right?
Yeah.
It's that internal battle.
Then who died in the car?
I would say his old ways, but then that's the thing. It's like,
yeah, is that when he made the decision?
Yeah.
The girlfriend dying, really?
Yeah, I know. I don't know about that.
I don't know.
So what Denis Villeneuve said about this was he said this movie is basically a documentary about Jake Villeneuve. Yeah.
Villeneuve.
So nice. He said it's basically a documentary about Jake Gyllenhaal's subconscious. That's what he said the movie's about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he also said the spiders represent the women in his life.
Oh.
Which makes sense too. Especially
but you know what
end.
Happens with spiders, women.
When they mate. Yep, that's
when
another.
They get pregnant, they're done with you.
Yeah.
Actually, don't they sometimes kill them even beforehand?
No, I think it's after they mate.
Yeah, they have to, because they want to make offspring.
Yeah. They mate and then they eat them.
Then they eat you for the feed.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
what are men good for anyway?
The other thing I wrote down was the quote that was on the screen in the beginning.
Yeah. That too. Yeah. I didn't write that down. I was trying to remember what that was.
Chaos is order undeciphered.
Yeah, how does that fit into this?
I don't know, but I thought it was a cool in the beginning.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, that's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah.
Like, order undeciphered is chaos. But how's it fit in the movie? I mean, maybe it's all chaos until then you put the pieces together, right? And so it's
maybe.
And then and then once you understand it, like you understand, oh, it was, again, my interpretation, it was all the same person. And then you're like, oh, this kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's not chaotic when you figure out what's going on, sort of thing.
Once you
decipher it.
But beforehand, it seems like
you're like, what the heck is this? Yeah.
What else I did notice though, the very end. So once you see the giant spider and then it ends on his face, his reaction is kind of like, he's not really shocked at all. And then I think he kind of sighs a little bit, like he knows what's going to happen next. So I don't know if that plays into it as well. And that's where it's like right after he sighs, like he kind of is like,
yeah.
It's because,
or maybe that's the cycle, and he's like, here we go again.
Yeah. Well, she's gonna get mad because he's going out.
Right, there you go. Yeah, so that's
he's choosing to go do that instead of be with her.
Yeah, I mean, the spider was definitely in like a defensive, like,
oh yeah.
Which stance sort of thing.
If it's supposed to be the woman, then yeah.
So that actress, she's in Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, yes. Okay. Is she the main? What is her name in the movie?
Let me see.
And that was her first English speaking role.
She's Inglourious Bastards? Shosanna.
Dang. Okay, it's been a minute since I've seen Inglourious Bastards.
Dreyfus. And she's also in Now You See Me.
Okay.
Inglourious Bastards was before Enemy, right?
Oh yeah, that was 2010, I think.
Yeah.
Or 2009. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Because I thought that's what they said. Because I think that was mentioned in the little extra
She's
things.
in Murder Mystery too. Also, yes, she is. Now that I'm thinking
about
it.
Where's she at in that?
Very recent.
She's
That's downhill from.
I know. Yeah.
Right? From those other movies.
It is.
Hey, she needs some money,
Yeah.
COVID money.
That was a
Claudette.
I'm trying to remember. I watched that movie, but it's very forgettable.
It is very forgettable.
I know the first one and the second one all blend in with together.
Well, and the first one was a little bit definitely like
better,
decent,
and
it was fun.
Oh, she's I'm not looking at the picture. She's one of the. Is she the new wife of the guy,
Maybe.
the Indian guy?
Oh, maybe.
Is she the new one that he
don't know.
marries?
I can't picture him
Oh,
now.
I can't remember.
So
I want to say she is.
did Denny pick her out from Inglourious Basterds? Like, did he see that movie and he was like, "Oh, I want"?
They didn't mention that.
Okay.
It was because it was just when they were interviewing. Because there's the
They
extras.
interviewed all the actors.
They were different vignettes, little extras.
Okay.
Each one was like a minute or two long, and then there was like 4 of them. And she was talking in one of them, and they were just talking about, she was like, "Yeah, this, and said something about being in Inglourious Basterds and being like her first." She's like, "I didn't even know how to speak English when I got cast in that, and that was the first time I had to speak."
That's crazy.
It's amazing.
And you're doing a Quentin Tarantino movie,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
geez.
Yeah. Any other overall thought? Any other notes, thoughts?
No. The spider
No.
being the women thing is like, I'm like here, like
Makes a lot of sense.
thinking back, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it's spiders looming over then the whole city at one point. That shot we talked about.
Mhm.
But then the beginning, I don't know what that is.
Spider
Where the
being
woman
stepped
almost,
on.
yeah,
By the other
heel.
woman.
Mhm.
Yeah, the woman's heel stepping on.
Oh,
the
is that so? Is that her trying to kill the mistress? I don't know.
I don't
or
know.
the mistress kind of
Or the other way around, yeah.
Mhm. Or just the metaphor of women in general.
Yeah.
Be tearing down other women. Like,
and not being. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. A lot of things to think about.
But yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'd watch it again.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It'd be good to watch again. You would be able to pick up on a lot more for sure.
Mhm.
It's that
Yeah.
kind of movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get nuance of those things that
Mhm.
you were like, oh, now I'm seeing. It's like watching Fight Club the second time.
Yeah, definitely. Well, don't say anything
that's
because
right.
don't say anything because I thought you had seen that movie, but then you told me you hadn't. But I'm pretty sure we watched it together. So if you forgot,
We have not watched Fight Club together, I can tell you that.
okay, well then that's a big one. We have Fincher down as a we
Yeah.
got to do Fincher.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially because I think that's one of Claudia's favorite directors because she's loved every
Oh
movie
man,
she's seen
I
of
love
Fincher's.
a David Fincher film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy
New one this
cow.
year,
Yeah.
The Killer,
Oh
Yeah.
my
I
gosh,
just
that
showed
was
it-
so
I just showed
good.
it.
I got
with your boy.
With my boy.
She loves Fassbender. Yeah,
He's the bomb.
Mhm.
yeah, he's awesome.
He is the bomb. He's in a couple indie films. that
Steve
I-
Jobs
He is Steve Jobs.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
in that.
I just
And
watched that
Aaron
recently. That was
Sorkin
good.
movie.
That's
right?
right.
That's the one with Aaron Sorkin.
Oh yeah, Aaron Sorkin.
Most of the
does
stuff's
good stuff.
written though. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's in directing, does he? mostly
I think he's directed
screenplay
it.
or-
Yeah, but I think he's directed a few things. But most of them it's just the writing.
So again, though, but like this movie's still good, and the fact that this is like Denis
Yes.
Villeneuve's worst movie, it's like
Yeah.
we're gonna
Well,
everything out.
that's
of
what you
this
say.
is
Like I haven't seen Prisoners.
that's true. You haven't seen.
Or,
So yeah,
um,
which
Oh,
ones
man.
haven't you
or
seen?
Sicario.
Prisoners is insane.
All right, so going through them.
So we're gonna watch Prisoners next, right?
Yeah, you haven't
Yes,
seen Prisoners.
Prisoners is next.
You haven't seen Sicario. You have seen Arrival.
Yes.
All right, and then Blade
Blade Runner
Dune.
and Dune. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All heaters.
All heaters. Yep. So
Yeah.
Prisoners is next. Yeah.
Prisoners is it'll be interesting for you as a parent to watch.
Okay.
As a
Alright.
father.
It's long too.
Ooh.
It's 2.5 hours.
Ooh.
It doesn't
So
feel
keep that
like
in
it.
It's
mind.
like twice
It-
as long as the one we
I
just
know,
saw.
this
is
an hour and a half.
short.
Yeah.
it's
It
just-
doesn't feel like 2.5 hour
Yeah.
movie though, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's really I mean, you
It's
think about
great.
him as a director and how
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
it's
sure.
done really well.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I think I mentioned this recently on Film Banter. Even it's like I feel like one of the most underrated things, and I know you would probably agree with this in a big way, is just is the editor of the movie. Like if a
Right.
film is not edited well, like I feel like that's one of the biggest things, right? In how
pacing.
and
Yep.
all that. It's
Yep.
just the editor, whoever's editing the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all it's all when you cast a movie, you're kind of creating something, right? Like you're picking who's going to be these people, and then you shoot it all, you're making a bunch of decisions and creating something, and then when you're editing it, you're also again making decisions. So you're almost like create the movie multiple times and till it gets to the point where what's being shown that people watch, right?
Well, yeah. What was the famous movie? Was it the first Star Wars that got re-edited? Like it was like a mess first, and then got re-edited to be. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie. There was one famous movie. I heard about this recently that originally was a mess, and then someone came in, re-edited it, and now it's like one of the best movies ever.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
Or one of the. Well, that's crazy how big of a deal.
Yeah,
like that's all it is. Someone re-edited it, and then, so
yeah, it's definitely a big part of the art form, right? And makes a big difference. And it's well, I mean, it's things I joke always. Well, I did was curious. Well, when I had to hire someone the last time, we took the same footage and gave it to like 10 different people.
I remember you telling me about this.
See how the different people edit the stuff and what people do with it or what they don't do with it. And it was fascinating to watch. But because I mean, I've always been curious of that because I think I'm a decent editor. And so I'm always like, it'd be interesting to be in a kind of a contest like that where, a bunch of people get the same stuff and you're like, here, you have all these same assets, these footage, this whatever, and you have to make something out of it. And, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to see and I'm sure maybe this has been done before. I have one example of this, but just a big director recut a film just to see what they do. I think the one I heard about recently was Soderbergh recut something that wasn't his, I can't remember what movie it was, and just put it out somewhere. I don't know. Like that kind of thing is so cool. Like it'd be cool to see more directors do that kind of thing.
It'd be hard to, I feel like it'd be hard for something I'd seen before a couple times. It'd be hard to look past what right?
Yeah, that's true.
It would be hard to try to make it different, but without being like, I'm intentionally making this different, or am I doing this because I think it's better? Like, I feel like I would struggle with that a lot. And
Didn't they do that with Justice League, though?
Yeah, well,
the Snyder cut.
Snyder
Yeah.
cut.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it was better.
It was better. Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch either one, so.
Well, the original was very bad.
Yeah. Well,
So he did make it better.
Yeah.
well, it's probably, but,
How
just,
much
you're just
better,
polishing
though?
a turd at that point, right?
Yeah. Exactly, yeah.
I only watched it for the Henry Cavill parts anyway,
course.
so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh, what's the new thing he's doing?
Warhammer.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
man.
Yes.
That's his other big love besides The Witcher.
He could play anything and I'd be like front row.
I feel like he would have done it. He would have been a good James Bond.
I know. I
Because
know.
those scenes
Dare
in
to
Mission
Dream.
Impossible.
Fallout?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Good.
Dude, he's so good in that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
so good.
I don't know why they don't pick him, but I think they're going to go with someone else. But I wish they would.
It could be him or Tom Hardy and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
I think they both
I
would.
don't know if I'd like Tom Hardy.
Really?
I think he's a
I-
He'd
little-
be grunting too much.
Yeah,
He'd
he's
be
a
doing
little,
his
he's
Tom
a
Hardy
little
noises.
too
Little
unpolished.
brutish.
Yeah, he's a little too unpolished.
That's true.
Like there can be a little bit like Daniel Craig and even Sean Connery are a little bit more the ruggedness versus like Pierce Brosnan and Roger Moore. They're a little bit more like, yeah. But I feel like Tom Hardy would be a little too far, personally, for my.
I
Yeah.
would 100% prefer
What
Henry
about-
Cavill.
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah, I don't think he's strong enough looking.
He could bulk up.
I mean, I guess he could.
No.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
No?
I see Tom Hardy before I see Cillian Murphy. But
Mm.
Henry Cavill would be I mean, perfect.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, Henry Cavill's number one. Yeah, he would be perfect.
Yeah, he's still young enough, but I don't know.
There are some things that have happened that Henry Cavill has done recently that may be hinting towards him maybe being the next James Bond. Like there's like an alcohol or a cider or a seltzer company.
Yeah, he did like
That
an ad.
he did
right?
an ad
Yeah.
for them, and he
was getting
comes
in a
out.
car.
He comes out of the restaurant in a black tux,
Mhm.
and he goes to an Aston Martin, or he either gets in or he walks past it and kind of looks back at it, like, and that's obviously
Yeah.
James Bond's car, right? So you're like, is this happening? When I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, is he going to be the next James Bond? But nothing was ever confirmed
Yeah.
after that. But I was just like, and I was looking at the comments to see if other people were having the same, and they were. Of course, everybody's
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
Teasing it either way, right?
Right.
Even if it was
yeah.
never going to happen, they can still fun to tease it.
Sure,
Oh, yeah.
sure. Oh man, I'd be so happy. That's the only way they could save that franchise for me, to be honest, because that last movie sucked. I
Yeah.
don't even count it. as a James Bond.
I still haven't watched that last one.
Oh, don't.
Because it would just
Don't
Just
waste
say
your
it
time.
ends with Spectre because
Yeah. Don't waste your time.
That's sad.
It's like
it is sad.
it's like the memory of somebody who's dying, and you're like, you don't want to remember them as this version of themselves. Don't watch it so that you remember it as Spectre being the last one.
Well, even Spectre, I didn't think was the strong. That's
No,
strong.
Well, no.
But I feel like they all though that go that route. Like they start out strong, and then eventually they play it too long, and then
I mean, the James Bond's had a good run though.
No, I meant like each actor.
Oh,
like
okay.
the later movies aren't always as good, right? For each actor, and then eventually they're like, okay, and then we cast somebody new, and there's a couple good ones, and then they play them too long, and
it's a good point. Yeah, each Bond, like the first movie they do is usually the best, isn't it?
or at least one of the I would say, I mean, Sean Connery.
Well, that's because it was the very first one.
Goldfinger
Yeah.
is probably his best, but
Yeah, not Dr. No.
yeah, not Dr. No.
I'm a big Thunderball.
Yeah.
Thunderball's good too.
I love Thunderball.
Thunderball's good.
I don't remember Roger Moore's first one, but I was thinking, Pierce Brosnan, Goldeneye, that's his best.
Yes, Goldeneye's good.
And then obviously Casino Royale is
Yes,
the best
it is probably the best, but the Skyfall's good.
Skyfall is excellent.
I think Casino Royale is still the best of his.
The first of no. Yeah, it's the first one. The Timothy Dalton. His first one was the better one, right?
Yeah, Living Daylights.
Living Daylights.
Better than License to Kill.
License to Kill is not
definitely.
good.
No.
Then of course you have the one off.
Yeah.
I
forget his name.
Drawing a blank on his name. That one actually is not bad though. That he's in.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I don't remember the name of the actor though.
Yeah. Lazenby is his last name.
Yeah.
Can't remember his first name. But yeah. I feel like they.
Will we do all Bond movies one day? That'd take
We'd
a
have
long
to have
time.
my mom on the podcast because she's the James Bond
she loves
expert.
Bond.
Like how you all are with Star Wars, she is with James Bond.
Yeah.
Like she's.
I don't know. I could go toe to toe probably.
Oh, that would be.
I've
I'd watch that.
That'd be
I've
awesome.
been watching since I was a kid.
Yeah, I would watch.
I used to have all the DVDs. Now I don't need the DVDs.
She does.
Now I own them all on digital.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course.
But yeah. Well, that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
Where can we follow you?
Follow me on Instagram and Twitter.
X.
Oh, X, yeah. Instagram, it's at Claudia Youngbar. And on X, I think it's at Cosmic Clods with a Z.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I changed it.
I'm at J Youngbar on Instagram and the same on Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm at Jared Youngbar on Instagram, and I don't know what it is on Twitter. I don't really use Twitter, so it's fine. Or X.
Don't
whatever.
follow me on X,
Yeah,
though.
fine.
That's like my...
Instagram.
Yeah, I
That's
don't really
really
use it
easy.
either. Not that you use Instagram either, but
Not really. So
Yeah.
follow them. You don't need to follow me. I'm not interested.
and you can find Screen Time on Instagram at screen_time_pod, or subscribe on YouTube. Or if you have any questions or feedback, you can write us at feedback@screentimepod.com, and we will be covering Prisoner from Denis Villeneuve
Villeneuve. Nailed
next
it.
time. All right, talk to you guys later.